Okay, so as far as today goes, we're going to start prepping our project in Photoshop. So there's a few things that need to happen. Number one, we use our GIF planning worksheet as kind of like a reference. We want to make sure that this part is done, and if it's not, that's the first thing we need to get done. Okay? So that will be number one. You could always change it as time goes on, but it's a really good reference for the whole project, so you don't get confused with all of your different layers and images. Okay. Guys, a few more people still need to close their screens, please. Thank you. So we're going to start in Photoshop, and in order to start, you'll see like a file new option when you get started. As far as the size of your project goes, if you want it to be a square, you can make it like 5 by 5. If you want it like a little bit more rectangular in one direction, you could do like 7 by 5. I'll leave that up to you. Something in that ballpark is good for me. Okay. And we're just going to work on the background today. Chances are your background's probably the same or really similar throughout your whole project. So I just want to show you like some of the basic things we're going to do in Photoshop, since it's definitely different but similar to PhotoPay. So number one, for my background with my like firework project, I used like a sky, and I used like a night sky and grass. So I just saved a picture of grass to my computer, and then I ended up opening up in Photoshop. So I just went to File, Open. I have a bunch of pictures saved already, and I opened my grass here. So what do I need to remove from this picture so I could start making like a scene with my sky? Thank you. So one thing different about Photoshop is that we need to click this little padlock. It's always locked automatically in Photoshop. And then you still have all your tools here. So like you still have your magic wand, and you can select all the white stuff, hit delete. So that's pretty much normal. Okay. Still going to hit Control D to deselect any stuff like that. So let's drag that into my new document, just like I would before. And then the nice part is if you want to resize something, like we used to do free transform, and now we're going to do Control T and blow it up. This is a little too fuzzy, but just for the sake of the demo, we're going to use it. It gets a little better when I hit enter. Any questions about that so far? Okay, cool. So you still have your magic wand. It's just like under this square box tool. So if you just click and hold, you'll get like another drop down, which is nice. So let's work on the sky. I saved a picture of the sky here. I'm going to open that up. Oh, there it is. My move tool's at the top here. I'm going to drag it. Drag, drag, drag. And then what am I going to use to free transform? Control what? T. Perfect. And of course, I'll fix that in a sec. So what do I need to do to make my grass appear correctly again? What do I need to do at the bottom? Move the layers. So I'm just going to swap them. I could click the layer, and I could drag it up just like that. Should have gone in on this layer and cleaned up some more of that stuff, but that's okay. Another cool tool you may want to use that we didn't really use before, it's also grouped with your magic wand, is called the quick select. And a quick select is good for like my firecracker picture I have here. So what's nice about the quick select is it's smart at like figuring out what's different. So it's like already realizes that this is way different red compared to the blue background. And if I like select too much like that, I can hold down my Alt key, and I can take away some of that excess stuff. So it's pretty smart. It's not perfect, but it is quite helpful as time goes on. So that's one suggestion for you. What else do I want to go over? Do we have any questions so far about what I'm talking about? When you're really set and your background, you're like, okay, this is every background. I don't need to do anything else. you can select both layers. So you can see all my layers here. How do I select more than one layer? What key do I hold down? Control, yep. So I selected both layers, and I know when I right click, there's like a cajillion things here, but pretty much all the stuff you need is there. You could just merge the layers, and they're one big layer now. So when I hide it, both the sky and the grass go away. Okay. So what I like to do is make my background layer, and then you could even right click and duplicate it, especially if you're going to have like the same background a billion times on every single frame. So you could sit here and you could just keep duplicating till you get your 10 or whatever amount of layers you're going to work with is. Okay. Any questions about that? One thing before you start, there is this lovely fancy function in Photoshop now called the object selection. I think I'll use this one for it. It's lovely, but with the network being so funky these last few days, I wouldn't suggest using it because it's really laggy. But as I put my mouse on the firecracker, what happened? Yeah, it's selected and it turned blue. So the idea is that when it's not laggy, it like mentally figures out that this part needs to be selected because it's totally different. So it's an awesome tool, but the network's been really slow. So you may want to avoid that and just use the ones underneath. But they're still really good for selections anyway. Okay. So what do I need you to do by the end of the period today? Make your background. Good. Merge it so it's one big layer, and then you can duplicate it a bunch of times. So I know this is like our first official day on Photoshop. So if you have questions, your problems may be because your layer is locked. Okay. You just have to hit the padlock. And I'm always happy to help you. Just don't hesitate, and I will help as soon as I can. Right? Any other questions about this coming to mind? Okay, cool. Let's get started on our backgrounds, and then tomorrow, yeah, I see you tomorrow. We'll work on working on the next portion, like